today, but with a fascinating twist.
Oh, this should be good.
It is. Our guide is John Chavez, and his book, 171819, Redshirting Education, is not your typical parenting book.
I've heard of it, yeah.
He comes at this not just as an educator, but get this, as a football coach.
Interesting. So we're talking about someone who's spent over 20 years in the classroom, but also nearly 3 decades coaching football and baseball.
You got it. And he's currently a TV commentator for high school football, so he's got a unique perspective on this.
Definitely seeing these kids both on and off the field.
And here's the kicker. He actually redshirted all 3 of his sons.
Have you ever found yourself kind of like wondering how to best help like a young person in your life with learning, you know? Like maybe seen them struggling with homework or just felt a bit lost on how to give them the support they really need. Well, that's exactly what we're diving deep into today.
Yeah, getting those study skills solid from the start.
Exactly. Building strong study skills right from the beginning.
It's huge.
And to get into all of this, we've got a whole bunch of amazing resources. We're looking at ones that focus on how kids learn best.
Right, like some really insightful stuff.
We've got the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, NCTM, thinking about math, which is so important.
Those early foundations.
Exactly. And then we've got the American Educational Research Association, AERA. They offer a lot about those core learning skills kids need. We're also tapping into some parent and teacher guides, getting that practical advice. Plus, some classic educational psychology research, and even some foundational books like Mathematics for Young Children. Our goal, to turn all of this into advice you can actually use to help those study habits really stick.
Yeah, because it's not just about getting through the next test.
Yeah.
It's about setting them up for success in school and in life, really fostering that love of learning.
Okay, so let's get into it. The first thing that jumps out from all this research is how important the learning environment itself is.
It's more important than you might think.
Yeah, like the actual physical space where they study.
Totally. Think about it when you're trying to focus and there's stuff happening all around you. It's tough, right?
Right, yeah.
It's the same for kids. Creating a dedicated study space for them at home makes a huge difference. It should be quiet, organized, free from distractions as much as possible.
So it's like a signal, right?
Yeah, like, okay, this is where we focus. It actually helps them mentally shift gears, too.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the location, is it? It's also about having a consistent routine.
Right. When homework and study time happen at the same time every day, it becomes part of their routine. They get used to it.
Like brushing their teeth.
Exactly. It's not a battle every time. It's just what we do.
Okay, so we've got the environment set up. What about the actual learning? Something that feels really, really fundamental is reading.
Oh, for sure.
Like it unlocks so much for them.
Totally. And the research backs that up. Encouraging daily reading from when they're little has huge benefits. Making time for it, whether it's bedtime stories, independent reading, or even family reading time where everyone joins in,
Yeah.
it all adds up.
And I've noticed it's not just about what they read, right? It's about giving them a variety of things to read.
Absolutely. Exposing them to different types of writing, fiction, nonfiction, magazines, anything that's age-appropriate and interesting, it all helps expand their understanding. They learn to process different types of information.
No, this is where it gets interesting for me. Just reading the words isn't enough, right? They need to really think about what they're reading to get the most out of it.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head there. That's what we call active reading.
Oh, okay.
Asking them questions about what they've read, like, can you summarize the main points? What do you think might happen next? Or even just, what are your thoughts on this? It makes them think critically and helps them remember what they've read.
It's like they're having a conversation with the book.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've talked about the environment and reading, but then there's all the school stuff, right? Assignments, projects, that's where organizational skills come in, I guess.
100%. Teaching kids how to be organized early on gives them skills they'll use forever, really. Things like using a planner or a calendar.
Oh yeah, to keep track of everything.
Exactly. To keep track of assignments, due dates, even upcoming events. And they can start thinking about their own study goals, too. It helps them learn to manage their time, which is a skill we could all use more of.
And I imagine when they're faced with a big project, it can feel really overwhelming. What's the best way to approach that?
Breaking it down.
Oh.
Instead of looking at the whole thing at once, help them divide it into smaller, more manageable steps. That way, it's not this big scary thing. It's a series of smaller tasks they can actually handle.
Yeah, that makes it less intimidating.
It really does. And the best part is, each time they finish a step, they feel a sense of accomplishment.
A little win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those little wins keep them motivated to keep going. And of course, none of this matters if they can't find their stuff. Pencils, paper, that sort of thing.
The classic, where's my situation?
Yep. Having organized school supplies makes a huge difference. It minimizes frustration and keeps their attention on the learning itself.
Okay, so reading and being organized are super important. But how do we make the learning itself really stick?
You're talking about active learning.
Active learning, okay.
It's about making them an active participant in the learning process. For example, hands-on activities are fantastic, especially for subjects like science and math.
Yeah. I remember doing those science projects as a kid, building a volcano, that sort of thing.
Exactly. When kids can actually touch, build, and experiment, abstract concepts become real. They're not just words on a page anymore.
They get it.
Exactly. And the NCTM, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, they really push for that kind of hands-on learning in the early years.
It makes so much sense. What about when they're like in class or reading a textbook?
Note-taking can be really helpful. For older kids, it might be jotting down key points or summarizing what they're reading, but even younger kids can draw pictures to represent what they're learning. It helps them process the information.
So it's not just passively absorbing information, it's doing something with it.
Right.
And, to keep them engaged, I think bringing in some fun can really help.
Absolutely. Educational games and puzzles are fantastic.
Yeah, they don't even realize they're learning.
Exactly. They're having fun and reinforcing what they've learned at the same time.
Now, I've got to say, I think kids also learn a lot from watching the adults around them.
You're absolutely right. We are their role models, whether we realize it or not.
Like, we can tell them how important learning is, but do we actually show them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, model good study habits yourself. Show them that you're excited about learning new things. Share your own experiences with them.
Oh, I like that. Like, hey, I'm learning this new thing too, and it's tough, but I'm sticking with it.
Right. Or, I just learned this amazing fact, and I want to share it with you. It all makes a difference. Even something simple like having a quiet time at home where everyone focuses on something, reading, a puzzle, whatever, shows them that learning is important to the whole family.
It's like a family value.
Yeah.
Now, time. Time is always a challenge. So how can we help kids manage their study time effectively?
Well, for younger kids, a timer can be a great tool. It helps them focus for set periods of time and then take a break. It builds that understanding of work and rest cycles.
Those little breaks are crucial.
They are. It's like hitting the reset button. And along with the timer, help them set small, specific goals for each study session. Instead of finish all your homework, it could be read one chapter or do 5 math problems.
We break it down.
Exactly. Smaller goals feel more achievable and give them a sense of accomplishment along the way.
So what happens when they hit a wall? They're working on something and they just can't figure it out.
That's when they need to ask for help. But that can be hard for some kids.
Oh, yeah.
So create a positive environment around asking for help. Let them know it's okay not to know everything. In fact, asking questions is a sign of a good learner.
It shows they're engaged.
Exactly. Now, when they do come to you for help, resist the urge to just give them the answer.
I know that one. It's tempting.
It is. But instead of giving them the answer, guide them. Ask leading questions. Offer suggestions. Help them figure it out themselves.
That way they're actually learning how to solve problems.
Exactly. It's about giving them the tools they need to be independent learners.
I think it also helps when we can connect what they're learning in school to real life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look for opportunities to do that.
Like how?
Well, if they're learning about fractions, bake something together and have them measure out the ingredients.
Practical math.
Exactly. Or if they're studying nature, go for a walk and talk about what you see.
That makes it so much more engaging.
It does. When they can see how learning applies to their own lives, it becomes more meaningful.
It's not just something they have to do for school.
Right.
What about homework? Should we be involved in that or let them handle it on their own?
Reviewing it together can be really helpful.
Oh, okay.
It's not about doing it for them, but about discussing what they learned, asking questions, and helping them catch any mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
It reinforces what they learned in class and shows them that you care about their education.
Like a team effort.
Exactly.
Now, learning isn't always easy. There are going to be challenges and bumps along the way.
And that's okay. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
It's part of the learning process.
But sometimes those mistakes can feel like setbacks.
True. That's why it's so important to foster a growth mindset.
The growth mindset.
It's the belief that we can always learn and improve. So instead of focusing on the grade, praise their effort, their persistence, their progress. Let them know that mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow. This is something that's consistently highlighted in educational psychology research. A growth mindset is crucial for academic success.
So it's about seeing challenges as chances to learn, not as failures.
Exactly. And building on that idea of preparing them for challenges, we can also start introducing them to basic test-taking skills early on.
Oh, like how to approach tests without getting overwhelmed.
Right. And we can do it in fun ways, without making it feel like a big deal. Playing memory games, for instance, is great for building memory skills. You could also do practice quizzes, keep it light and playful, and teach them relaxation techniques like deep breathing to help manage any test anxiety.
So, to wrap up, we've covered a lot today. Creating a good study environment, the power of reading, organizational skills, active learning, being a good role model, managing time, asking for help, connecting learning to real life, reviewing homework, fostering a growth mindset, and even early test-taking skills.
Wow, that's quite a list.
It is. And the message that comes through loud and clear is that developing these skills early on sets kids up for success in all areas of their lives. It's not just about school, it's about becoming a lifelong learner.
And all of this advice is not just pulled out of thin air. It comes from years of research and the expertise of people who have dedicated their lives to understanding how kids learn best.
So as you're listening to this, think about which of these strategies you can start implementing today. Even one small change can make a huge difference over time. What's one thing you can do to support the learning journey of a young person in your life? It might be easier than you think to get started.
And so rewarding.
Absolutely. Okay, so today we're going to tackle something pretty fundamental.
Okay.
It's about research and how we can equip our kids with the power to actually do good research.
Absolutely.
Right. It seems basic, but you think about how much information is constantly coming at all of us these days.
Right.
It's not enough to just find stuff online. You have to be able to really understand it, evaluate it.
Use it critically.
Use it critically, yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's not even just about school. It's
No.
a life skill, I feel like.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is about setting them up to be
Right.
lifelong learners and to be able to navigate the world with confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Confident, independent thinkers.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to dive into today. And we have a bunch of awesome resources.
We do.
So we're looking at John Chavez's article, Redshirting Education, which makes a really strong case for research as a foundation for success.
It really does. And then we're also pulling in some stuff from ALA Common Sense Media.
Oh, yeah.
East-T and Eddie A.
These are great organizations.
Yeah, so lots of good stuff there. And we'll touch on some points from educational psychology journals too.
Great.
But yeah, so the big mission for this deep dive is to give you guys some really solid strategies you can actually use with your kids.
Absolutely.
So you can kind of see why these skills matter so much and how to nurture them without feeling like you need to go get a PhD or something.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
No, not at all.
We can break it down into manageable steps.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So where do we even begin?
Right.
Where's the starting point for unlocking this potential?
Right. I think the very first step, and maybe the most important, is nurturing that natural curiosity that all kids have.
Oh, yeah.
Right. They're constantly asking why.
Oh, yeah.
And it can be exhausting sometimes. But
tell me about it.
But that's the engine
Right.
that drives all research. It's that inquisitiveness. Yeah.
So if we can keep that spark alive, we've got a strong foundation.
That totally makes sense. But like I said, sometimes it's so much.
Yeah.
What are some actual ways that we can nurture it instead of just putting out fires all the time?
Exactly. Well, one surprisingly simple but powerful technique is asking open-ended questions.
Oh, okay.
So instead of always giving them the answer immediately.
Right.
Turn it back around and say well, that's a great question. What makes you think that?
Oh, I see.
Or what are some other possibilities?
Oh, that's good.
And research shows that when kids are actually involved in seeking the answers, it strengthens their problem-solving skills.
Makes sense.
And it also increases their intrinsic motivation to learn.
Oh, wow. So it makes them want to learn more.
Yeah, that feeling of discovery is super powerful.
That's huge. Yeah. Instead of forcing it on them, it's
Exactly.
They come to it on their own.
Exactly.
I love that. So it's a joint exploration instead of me just
a one-way information dump.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The article also talks about the importance of supporting their interests.
Yeah.
So how does that play into building research skills.
Well, when a child has a passion for something,
Yeah.
whether it's bugs or space or whatever, that's your golden opportunity.
Okay.
Chavez suggests you give them resources that feed that interest directly.
So like if they're obsessed with bug, I get them a book about bugs.
Exactly. Age-appropriate books, documentaries, websites, that kind of thing.
Got it.
And that makes it feel less like homework and more like an adventure.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
research becomes this joyful exploration
I love that.
of something they already care about.
Yeah, it's not a chore. It's like,
Exactly.
oh, this is awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the curiosity going.
Yes.
How do we give them like the actual skills to
Right.
find what they're looking for?
Okay, so now we're building their information gathering toolkit.
Okay.
One of the first things is books and libraries. Going to the library can be so enriching.
It's so fun.
Show them how the books are organized. Making a treasure hunt
Yeah.
to find a book on a specific topic.
I love that.
And don't forget about teaching them how to use the index or the table of contents.
No.
Those are really valuable, even in the digital age.
Totally. I still use those.
Me too.
All right, so then there's the whole online world,
Yes.
which is kind of unavoidable these days.
Right. Well, it's about teaching them to be responsible digital citizens
Okay.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
So Chavez mentions things like Kiddle,
Okay.
which is a kid-friendly search engine.
Oh, cool.
It filters out inappropriate content.
That's great.
And then there are educational websites like National Geographic Kids.
Okay, cool.
Those are good starting points.
Yeah, those are good.
You also want to have conversations about online safety
Oh, right.
and what kind of information they might find.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's important.
Okay, so then once they're finding all this information, how do we teach them to keep track of it?
Well, you can introduce note-taking and outlining
Okay.
early on.
Okay.
And for little kids, this might just look like drawing pictures or using sticky notes.
Oh, cute. Like visual stuff.
Exactly. And then as they get older, you can introduce more formal outlining.
Okay.
The goal is to help them organize their thoughts
Yeah.
and see the structure of information,
That makes sense.
which helps them understand and remember it better.
Cool. Okay, so we've talked about them doing research, but I feel like kids learn so much from watching us.
They do.
So how can we use that to our advantage?
This is where modeling comes in.
Okay.
So researching aloud or thinking aloud.
Okay.
So let's say you're planning a family vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Get your kid involved.
Okay.
Look up the weather together.
Okay.
Fun activities.
Yeah.
A little bit about the history.
Oh, I love that.
And as you're doing it, talk about what you're doing. So you might say, okay, I need to find out what time the museum opens.
Yeah.
Let me try searching for opening hours of, and then the museum name
I see.
that shows them the steps
Mm-hmm.
from question to keywords to evaluating the results.
It's like you're showing them how your brain works.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so we focused on finding information,
Yes.
but what about the types of information they're getting?
Yes.
How can we broaden their horizons a little?
Reading across different genres is super important,
Okay.
especially nonfiction.
Okay.
So books and articles about science history, nature, current events,
Yeah.
all of that.
Okay.
That helps them build up a foundation of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also good to encourage them to explore information in different formats.
Oh, right. Not just books.
Not just books, documentaries, podcasts, interviews with experts,
Yeah.
maybe even someone in your family.
Right.
That personal connection can be really impactful.
Totally. Okay, but then there's so much information out there.
Right.
How do we teach them to be careful about what they're reading and watching?
Right. That's where evaluation comes in.
Okay.
A key skill is distinguishing fact from opinion.
Oh, yeah.
You can ask questions like, can we prove this?
Mm-hmm.
Or does this sound like someone's belief?
Oh, that's good.
It helps them think critically.
Okay, and how do we help them identify good sources, especially online?
Well, for younger kids, start with trusted places like PBS Kids or Smithsonian Kids.
Mm-hmm.
They have great reputations.
Yeah.
As kids get older, you can introduce the idea of source credibility.
Oh, cool.
So looking at who created the information,
Okay.
what their purpose might be, are they trying to inform or persuade,
Mm-hmm.
and is the information backed up by evidence?
Okay, that makes sense.
Common Sense Media has some really helpful resources for teaching this.
Okay, awesome.
And the ALA has frameworks for information ethics and online behavior too.
Oh, cool. So they're not just like blindly believing everything they see online.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So research doesn't always have to be books and screens, right?
No, definitely not.
How can we make it more hands-on?
There's so many ways.
Okay.
simple science experiments at home are great.
Okay.
So they can make a prediction, do the experiment, observe what happens, and then draw conclusions.
Oh, I love that.
It's research in action.
Yeah, like they're actually little scientists.
Exactly.
I love it.
And you can also involve them in family projects that require research.
Oh, okay.
So maybe finding a new recipe to try,
Okay.
or researching a historical event before you visit a site,
Oh, yeah.
or figuring out the best plants to grow in your garden.
I love that.
The NEA really promotes this kind of project-based learning.
Oh, okay, cool.
It makes research fun and purposeful.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so they've done all this research.
Yes.
Now, how do we help them, make sense of it all?
Summarizing is key.
Okay.
Chavez says to practice paraphrasing.
So, explaining it in their own words.
Exactly.
Okay.
That helps them process the information on a deeper level.
Yeah. Yeah, because if they can explain it to someone else, then they really get it.
Exactly.
Cool.
You can also use visual aids like graphic organizers.
Okay.
Things like Venn diagrams, flowcharts, mind maps.
Those are good.
Yeah, those can help them see the relationships between different pieces of information and organize their thoughts.
That makes sense. Okay, but we can't forget about technology.
Right.
So how do we help them use it in a good way for research?
Introduce digital tools gradually and at the right age.
Okay.
So for older kids, maybe using Google Docs for notes or exploring educational apps.
Okay.
There are also online databases made for kids like Kids Infobits, Britannica Kids Scholastic.
Oh, cool.
Those provide good, reliable information.
Yeah.
And the ALA has some great resources for digital literacy, too.
Okay, so it's all about using technology to help them, not distract them.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. So what are some ways we can kind of solidify what they have learned?
Well, documentation and sharing are important.
Okay.
Chavez suggests a research journal.
Like a notebook?
Yeah, or even a digital document
Okay.
where they can keep track of their findings,
Yeah.
thoughts, questions.
It's like their own little database.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And then giving them opportunities to share their research is great, too.
Okay.
So maybe they present it to the family or make a short video
Oh, fun.
or just talk about it with a friend.
Yeah,
That makes the whole process more meaningful.
totally. Okay, so last question. What's the most important thing for us as parents to do?
Be patient and praise their efforts.
Right?
Not just the outcome.
Yeah.
Celebrate their curiosity.
Yeah.
Acknowledge their attempts even when they struggle.
It's the process, not the product.
Exactly. And encourage a growth mindset.
Oh.
The idea that research is ongoing.
Right.
It's okay to not find the right answer right away.
Mm-hmm.
The research actually shows that these early skills are linked to better critical thinking and problem solving.
Wow.
And the ISC standards have good strategies for digital literacy too.
Okay. Awesome.
So there's a lot of support out there.
That's great to know. Okay, so to wrap up for everyone listening, remember,
Yes.
nurture that curiosity.
Yes.
Teach them how to find information both in the real world and online.
Absolutely.
Be a good example by doing your own research out loud.
Yes.
Encourage them to read all kinds of stuff and learn to evaluate what they find. Give them hands-on research projects.
Yeah.
Help them summarize and make sense of information.
Important.
Use technology in a good way.
Yes.
Encourage them to document and share what they learn.
Definitely.
And most importantly, be patient and praise their hard work.
Couldn't agree more.
Oh, and don't forget to check out those resources from Common Sense Media and the NEA.
So helpful.
Yeah. So our final thought for today.
Yes.
Think about the big picture. How will being a good researcher help your child in life? How will it affect their ability to learn, solve problems, and understand the world?
Such an important question.
What's one little thing you can do today to help your kid become a better researcher?
That's a great challenge.
Maybe ask an open-ended question or plan a trip to the library.
I love it.
Thanks so much for joining us today on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.
All right, so you guys sent us a ton of stuff on how to, up those test scores for your kiddos, right? We've got John Chavez, Dropping Knowledge and Redshirting Education, all about making sure kids are ready for college and careers, and then, a whole bunch of other voices chiming in. The College Board, ACT, Inc., the American Psychological Association, Edutopia, Understood.org, you get the picture. A lot to unpack.
Yeah, a lot of heavy hitters in the education world for sure.
Right. So what we really want to do is like go through all this stuff and give you the best, most practical tips, right? To help your kids not just ace those tests, but actually feel good about school, without making them feel stressed out.
Yeah, no one wants a stressed out kid. Right?
Exactly. So where should we even start with all this?
I think it makes sense to begin with like the core stuff, right? The foundation.
Yeah.
A lot of these experts are really stressing how crucial those basic academic skills are.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Chavez and like everyone else basically says reading, math, writing, those are non-negotiable, right? It's not just about passing a test. It's about setting them up for success in everything they learn later on.
Absolutely. And they actually give some pretty cool ideas for strengthening these skills.
Mm-hmm.
Like with reading, instead of just reading to your child, you can stop every now and then and ask, okay, what's happened so far? Just to get them thinking and remembering the story. Or like, what do you think might happen next? Based on what they already know.
I love that. It makes reading so much more interactive, right? It's not just passively taking in words. It's really engaging with them. And I love the suggestion about playing math games. It just sounds so much more fun than endless worksheets, right? Even writing letters, which seems kind of basic, but it's building those writing chops.
For sure. And, reading regularly, I can't emphasize this enough. Chavez really points out how important that is for building vocabulary and comprehension and critical thinking skills. It's like a full brain workout.
Totally. And when it comes to math, getting those basic facts down early on, flashcards, fun games, even counting change when you're out shopping, it makes those numbers real, helps kids understand them on a deeper level.
Definitely. And once they've got those fundamentals down, a lot of the experts say the next step is helping kids get used to the whole idea of testing itself.
Okay, so we're moving from building the foundation to like getting them in the game, right? How do we do that at home without making it feel like a constant pop quiz?
The key is to practice, but keep it low key, right? Chavez suggests using little quizzes based on what they're already learning in school. It kind of normalizes the format and the whole test-taking experience.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not like this big, scary thing when they actually have a test, if they're already used to doing these little quizzes along the way. And I also like the idea of setting time limits for certain tasks, like even homework. It's not about rushing them, but just helping them develop an awareness of time,
Exactly. And the American Psychological Association, they actually, they really highlight how important time management is during tests. So if kids get used to working within a certain time frame, it can actually help them feel less anxious when they're taking the real test.
Yeah, that makes sense. And introducing different types of questions like multiple choice, true or false, short answer, and giving them strategies for each type, it gives them some tools in their belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with multiple choice, you can talk about eliminating the answers that they know are wrong first.
Right.
So it's not just about knowing the material, it's about knowing how to play the game, right? The test-taking game.
Yeah, and that actually leads right into developing those broader test-taking skills. Yeah. Like one thing that's super important is reading the instructions carefully.
Oh, for sure.
Chavez makes this great comparison to like following instructions for a craft project or a recipe, right? It's all about paying attention to detail from the very beginning.
That is such a good analogy. It's like if you skip a step in the recipe, your cookies aren't going to turn out right. Same thing with the test. And the advice to skip difficult questions at first, that might seem counterintuitive, but it's actually pretty smart. It helps them manage their time and not get stuck on one problem.
Yeah, for sure. And then they can come back to those harder questions later with a fresh perspective and whatever time they have left. Oh, and getting in the habit of checking their work for like silly mistakes before turning it in, that can save them some points too.
Totally. Those careless mistakes, they're the worst, right? Okay, so let's talk about test anxiety for a sec. Because even if a kid is super prepared, those nerves can really mess things up. What did the experts say about that?
Well, it's all about building a positive mindset, right?
Yeah.
Framing the test as a chance to show off what they've learned, not just like a judgment or an evaluation, taking the pressure off.
Yeah, it's like changing the story around tests, right? So it's not about being afraid to fail. It's about showing what you know. And those relaxation techniques, the breathing exercises and visualization that Edutopia and Understood.org talked about, those are super helpful too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we can't forget about the basics, right? Getting enough sleep, eating healthy food, having time to play and be active, it all makes a difference in how clearly they can think during a test.
It's easy to forget that stuff when you're focused on academics, but it's so important. Okay, so we've talked about mindset and things they can do during the test itself, but what about the bigger picture, like the studying and getting organized part?
Right. Well, that's where good study habits and organization come in.
Mm.
Chavez really emphasizes creating a study schedule. It encourages kids to review the material regularly, which is way better than cramming the night before.
Right. A little bit each day is so much less stressful.
Totally. And using things like study guides and flashcards, breaking the information down into smaller chunks and actively recalling it, that's super effective too. Makes the material seem less overwhelming.
It's about making it bite-sized, right?
Exactly. And setting up a dedicated study space, somewhere quiet and free of distractions, it signals to the kid and everyone else in the house that it's focus time.
It creates that boundary, right? Mentally and physically. So now I want to touch on this whole growth mindset thing. How does that tie into better test taking?
So a growth mindset is basically believing that, you can always learn and improve. Your abilities aren't set in stone. So when you celebrate a kid's effort and the fact that they're learning, not just the grade on the test, it helps them bounce back from setbacks, right? If they don't do well, it's not a sign that they're not smart. It's just an opportunity to learn and grow.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective. It's about focusing on the journey, not just the destination, and talking about what went well and what could be improved after a test. It turns every test into a learning experience, regardless of the score.
Right. And connecting what they're learning to real life stuff, that can make a huge difference too. Puzzles, logic games, strategy games, all those problem solving activities are great for building critical thinking skills, which are important for tests and just life in general.
Yeah, it's like sneaking in learning through fun, right? And even using math in everyday situations. Like if you're cooking and you need to double a recipe, or if you're planning a family trip and figuring out the budget, it makes math feel more real and less abstract.
Definitely. They can see how it's actually useful. And, one of the biggest things is how parents approach learning and challenges themselves. Kids are always watching, right? So if they see you tackling a problem with a positive, organized attitude, even if it's just a Sudoku puzzle, it can really rub off on them.
Kids are like little sponges. And if you're genuinely excited about learning, that enthusiasm is contagious, right?
Totally. And if we look back at all the experts you mentioned, there's a lot of agreement on these points, The College Board and ACT, Inc., they both talk about how important it is for students to be familiar with the format of the tests. The American Psychological Association, they emphasize time management skills. Edutopia and Understood.org have great strategies for dealing with test anxiety. And Parenting Science and the National Association of School Psychologists, they both highlight the importance of parental support and giving kids chances to practice. It's all connected.
Yeah, it's a pretty consistent message coming from all of these different experts. So to recap, it sounds like the key takeaways are building that solid foundation in reading, math, and writing, giving kids low-pressure ways to practice test-taking skills, teaching them strategies for different question types, and helping them deal with test anxiety, and of course, good study habits, organization, and a growth mindset. And all of this is supported by, parents being encouraging and setting a good example.
Exactly. It's not about turning your kid into a test-taking machine. It's about giving them the skills and the confidence to succeed in school and in life.
So for all of you listening out there, think about which of these strategies really resonates with you and your child. Every kid is different. Maybe start by trying out one or two things and see how it goes. What if you focused more on the process of learning and problem solving instead of just the test scores themselves? How might that change the way you support your child's education? Something to think about, right? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.